you. First 48. Hey. Oh, I guess you tough cause you not here. You lying to the world like you not scared. You rapping about a life that is not yours. Went to jail for a gun that was not yours. You was a bumble for rap money. You still owe me ball pack money. You only come to Philly for a second. I know you pay them niggas for protection. I know they tell you they ride for you, but look them in the eye when they die for you. I wonder who gon' help when the Mac pour. I heard Nicky fuck you with a strap on. I know I gotta shoot with a mask on. Nigga, you a pussy, put a pad on. This shit gon' be easy. I know your folks told on TP. I know that you gotta pay TV. I heard that you gotta pay weekly. And tell your little niggas better pipe down. I got my shooters looking for him right now. I got 100 shooters with me right now. Fuck a rap, we can do this shit right now. I tried to keep the peace, I even had to argue with my brother Lee. He said, please, let me kill.
What's up? Skinny Suge, Vent Online Podcast. Time this video come to you to be day 8, day 9 of AR federal racketeering case. And I will be bringing that video to you. The defense is presenting their closing arguments. But I want to talk about an email that I received from an individual who watches the channel and who shared the information with others too and invited them to come watch the channel as well. And I appreciate you for that. An individual by the name of Trust Fund Sales at iCloud.com. And but what I really want to touch on is what's beneath the surface of this email. I really don't want to get into the email. I don't find it to be really informative. I don't find it to be knowledge-based, so I won't really delve into hypothesis and constructive nuance, and opinions. Like I won't really dive into the rhetoric of the whole situation. But what I want to tell the viewers who are tuned in for the info concerning this OBH trial, and who have any ties to ARAB or anyone in OBH or allegedly in OBH, is that notwithstanding the indictment alleging that OBH operated and controlled a drug trafficking organization, the feds have issued 12 separate indictments in and around Philadelphia alleging that over 200 individuals operated, controlled, and profited from drug trafficking in and around Philadelphia in the last 2 years alone. Right? Keeping in mind that Philadelphia is a small, big city. It's a big city in, excuse me, in terms of population, right? But the city in and of itself, square footage, it's a small city, right? 2 million individuals living here. 12 separate indictments alleging that over 200 individuals acted in concert to traffic drugs illegally in the last 2 years alone. Now, I'm not really sure if you're good at math, but if you're good at math, you understand the details and the underlying nuances here, because 200 separate individuals have 200 separate families on both sides of the coin. Not only their superseding family, meaning their moms and their dads, but also children and wives and girlfriends that extend from them as well. So a lot of colored folks affected here. Not one of these individuals alleged to have operated or acted in concert with others to operate or run or profit from drug trafficking was white. There have been separate indictments alleging that white folks operated pill mills individually, but I'm talking in terms of RICO cases, which are designed to sweep, right? So, in my educated guesstimation, right, the RICO Act, as it is used by statute today, is all about furthering the agenda of the federal government to profit from mass incarceration and gentrify our neighborhoods. And this is the underlying issue that most of us are not discussing. While we're concerned about the goings-on of ARAB and other alleged members of OBH or whatever the case may be, and that's fine, that's dandy. But the underlying issue is what's important, because it doesn't stop with ARAB, it doesn't stop with Braz, it doesn't stop with Cash, it doesn't stop with Meliano, it didn't stop with Dennis Harmon, it don't stop with Borg, right? It don't stop with Taz. None of the individuals named or unnamed in this conspiracy. However, this conspiracy turns out. You dig what I'm saying? Right? So what the feds will have us believe, and I want to refer to my notes because I have some numbers. So what the feds will have us believe, right, is that the central focus of government in America is and should be curtailing the illegal sale, trafficking, and profiting from narcotics in our inner metropolitan cities. Right? But when the reality is that narcotics have been here, illegal narcotics have been here for as long as America, right? And organizations created to control their purchase, their distribution, their sale, and their profit have been since America, since the first white immigrants boarded our shores. It started out with the Irish, and then the Italians took over, and then the Irish and the Italians battled for years over control of drug trafficking. And then as the 70s and the 80s moved in, blacks were put into, mind you, since the time of the emancipation, the white folks have always been looking for excess ways of substituting one for one. Mass incarceration is just slavery in no uncertain terms, and it's not unknown to those who know, right? If you know, you know. But we're talking about a system, well, an act that has been systemic since the time of this country's inception, right? Or the time when this country was stolen. You think what I'm saying? Narcotics have always been here illegally. They have always been trafficked illegally. And organizations have always been in creation since those illegal narcotics reached our shores. Illegal organizations have always been in place to control the flow of those narcotics and the profit that comes back therefrom, right? But the feds aren't by any stretch of the imagination stopping the flow and sale of narcotics. They aren't actually intending to. And this is what this video is about for the viewers who are watching, right? It's about understanding the underlying nuances and details of this particular indictment and those just like it, right? For the indictments that came down last year in Bloomberg and Raymond Rosenhausen projects, for the indictments that came down on Passyunk, for the indictments that came down on Tasker, right? For the indictments that came down Uptown, for the indictments that came down in Uptown back in the 80s, for the indictments that came down with JBM, right? For the indictments that came down on the 14 young boys, Glizzy and them on G Street, right? For the indictments that came down on Plaid Street. This is about more than just drug trafficking. It's about more than ARAB. It's about more than rap. It's about more than personality worshiping. Right? It's deeper than all those things combined. And until we understand that when you place a particular people, a certain class of people, whom all share like characteristics, and you put them in one place, and you do not give them the resources from which to move beyond that particular place, they will inevitably, as time has shown throughout the course of history, they will inevitably find their way out by any means necessary. And the only abstract I want to word this, I want to phrase this very carefully, because we're talking about something that can go political but doesn't need to be politicized for any reason. But the only abject alternative to that is if the resource that has come into play in question in these trials is given to them. You dig what I'm saying? So when the people are placed or boxed in a place and they are not given the resources from which to move beyond that place, they will inevitably turn to whatever means are necessary to them or deemed necessary by them to move beyond that place on their own, except in cases where that resource is given to them. You dig what I'm saying? Because black folks don't own shipping companies, right? We don't own farms in South America, Afghanistan, Latin America, Mexico. We don't own farms in Asia. We don't we don't make heroin. We don't make cocaine. Nor do we have the means by which to ship heroin and cocaine on a large scale basis. These resources were given to us as a means of allowing us to trap ourselves. You dig what I'm saying? And we, by no stretch of the imagination, are forced into certain abject livelihoods. And not all of us. There are always exceptions to every rule. But those of us who know, those of us who have been in those shoes, understand that the majority of those who fall within the ranks of those indictments that I alleged the feds issued within the last 2 years, and beyond that, are forced into accepting the resources which are handed out, which is another form of gentrification. And let me define gentrification for you because you'll understand further how it plays a role in this particular topic. When you live in a neighborhood, right, for instance, North Philadelphia, which everyone who is familiar with North Philadelphia or Philadelphia in general understands that Temple is buying everything from South to North Philadelphia. Say you live in North Philadelphia, 10th and Thompson, 10th and Brown, right? And what the whites did was, once black immigrants started moving in these neighborhoods, white folks, in interest of keeping those races separate and keeping the substantial edge in livelihood, what they sought to do was move out to the northeast, Montgomery counties, Delaware County, Delaware, New Jersey, suburbs of around Sicklerville, and the beach and the edge waters along the beach. And so they left those inner cities to blacks to destroy, which we inevitably did, because if you leave us in a place with no resources, you have no choice but to fall into ruin. So when people see our neighborhoods and they see the despair and they see the ruin and they see the emptiness, and they automatically assume that it's due to our own abject cause, this is not true, right? When you put a people in a place and don't give them the means to keep this place thriving, that place will inevitably fail. It will inevitably fall to ruin. And this is exactly what North Philadelphia did, understanding that these places were once thriving economical subcultures in Philadelphia. So blacks, what we did, what we always do since the time of slavery, what we did before we got here, when we were kings in Queens and Kemet, in the Niger region, and in our region, in Egypt, is we make something out of nothing, subjectively. So we built North Philadelphia up one brick at a time, right? Using federal resources and whatever we could glean from those federal resources. We built our neighborhoods up one at a time. And once white folks start seeing the property value increase, they decided to come back in, because not only is North Philadelphia a flourishing economical base, it's right near downtown. So you have the views, you have the distance between it and downtown, you have the saturation of schools, you have the saturation of the business district and businesses thereof. So white folks decided that this real estate was too important to give up, just leave. So what they did was had Temple buy all of the abandoned properties in the surrounding areas around those residential neighborhoods in which we lived, and by way of buying those properties and refurbishing them, what they did was started raising the property value beyond what the people who lived in those neighborhoods were able to afford, right? And once you raise the property value beyond what the people who live in that community are able to afford, then you have what's called eminent domain, where the city or the state, they come in and they buy those properties from under the people who live in those neighborhoods, and then they refurbish them on their own. They knock down the housing projects, the towers, the low rises, and they create condominiums, and they create town housing structures or whatever like that. And then once they refurbish them, the property value inevitably sustains it. It begins to sustain itself, but at a higher rate than it previously was. So not only when you move out are you not able to move back in because you're not able to afford the new rent, but we're pushed out inevitably, right? And then white folks move back in, and then white folks they, for some reason, systemically think that because you're white, the property value is automatically higher or at an increased rate, simply because of the color of their skin or whatever the case may be. But then blacks were tricked into moving to the Northeast because white folks moved to the Northeast, and black folks who don't have an identity of their own will inevitably always follow someone else in culture, ways, means. So they moved out to the Northeast, so black folks moved out to Jersey and are continuing to do so, moved out to Delaware, and whatever the case may be. And then white folks moved back in. Oh, North Philadelphia is an incredibly horrible place to live. We need to pack our bags. We need to go to the suburbs. We need to go to Villanova. We need to go to Mainline. We need to go to Roxborough, Manayunk, Northeast. We need to go to Sicklerville. We need to go to Ventnor. We need to go to wherever you go. And then white folks sit back and watch you leave. And when you migrate out, they migrate back in. And then when they migrate back in, they refurbish the neighborhood. And now the property value is abjectly above what you can afford. And then you can't move back in when you start to see the opportunities that are being that are now accessible in those neighborhoods in which you once lived. So these are the conditions of which the individuals in OBH survived and thrived, right? And I want to put it to the consumer and the viewer that not only is this about, I don't believe it's about curtailing narcotic sales at all. I believe it's about you are driving down or you are preventing profit. You are keeping property value at, and not only were these people selling drugs, keep in mind the government alleges, and it's also well known that various members who are alleged to be part of OBH buy property, commercial and residential, and don't sell, right? What they do is flip. What they'll do is, but you flip within your own community and within your own collective. And this is against the rule book, right? This is a technical foul. This is against what whites have designed eminent domain to be, all right? So this is what I want to put forth to those who are listening. This is what I want to put forth to those who are viewing, to those who have not viewed yet, who intend to share this so others can view it. I want to put this to your mind, and I want to present this question to the forefront. What is ARAB in cases just like it? What is the case really about? How do we prevent this further in the future? That's really what I'm all about, preventing this further in the future, because this is done. Guilty or not guilty, we don't know yet. But this case has already taken its toll on families, on individuals, because they've spent money for legal defenses. Property was forfeited and seized. So even if they are found not guilty, which we all hope they are, the damage has been done, right? I don't really believe the government cares at this point one bit, because the damage is done, the profit has been gained. So, leave your comments, your likes, your dislikes, your criticisms in the comment section. Share this video, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications in the future when videos pop up. And y'all keep it breezy, man. This Skinny Suge. It's the Vent Online Podcast.